That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the Show Up Podcast. My name is Calvin Noel, and my whole life I've been working to show up.
You have great potential.
Show up for my friendships, show up for my family, show up for my health, and show up for my future. Showing up means looking at what's happening in life and navigating through what I can do to make it better.
Keep your focus.
Make it better. Make it more meaningful and make a difference, not only for me, but for everyone around me.
The people who really care for you are rooting for your rise.
I'm still a work in progress.
All I gotta do is show up, show up.
But I'm gonna get there.
Brave enough and try again this time.
This podcast offers advice from experts who know how to take the next step to help you reach your full potential. Thanks for hanging out with me. Now let's show up.
Welcome to the Show Up Podcast. I'm your host, Calvin Noel. I am so glad that you all tuned in today. Today's episode is really, really important. We're talking about weight loss transformation. I don't know, but you've heard my story. If you haven't, you'll hear about it in this episode. As you can see, I could use a little weight loss transformation, but this episode came from some good friends of mine at Anthem Republic. Anthem Republic is a local advertising agency in Franklin, Tennessee, where they specialize in connecting brands and people. And so after talking to them, they really encouraged me to take my podcast to the next level, moving it from just audio to also doing video episodes. And so I started this episode to just talk about my own personal weight loss struggle. And for me, it's been a battle. I've lost weight, I've gained it, and I'm in the process of losing it again. And I flew all the way out to Salt Lake City, Utah to meet fitness expert Drew Manning. Guys, his story is amazing because he gained 76 pounds intentionally to be able to gain empathy with his clients and lose it with him. As a result, it became a social media phenomenon. He created a show that was on A&E television, and it's called Fit to Fat to Fit. You guys are going to be blessed by this episode because he really is not just a guy with a six-pack. He is the guy that cares, and I'm the guy that's going to ask the questions. So I got all the questions answered for me, and so without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode with Drew Manning on weight loss transformation. All right, so here we are in Salt Lake City, Utah. I am at the house of the one and only, the fitness expert, the guy that we all follow, ketogenic guy, the fit to fat to fit guy. Everybody, please welcome Drew Manning.
Calvin, thank you so much, man. You're so awesome, man. You flew all the way out here from Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right, man.
Just to see me, right?
Just to see you, because I figured we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
With this episode, we just want to talk about weight loss. And like I said, this is really no agenda other than there are people like me, we're stuck, we're struggling, and we need help. And I'm going to ask the questions for myself, but I'm going to also ask the questions for all the people that are obese. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm talking about people with at least 100 pounds. This is your episode. I'm talking with the trainer. But I'm going to really dissect this process. Okay. And so that the goal is that I can walk away with more tips and motivation on what I need to do, but also that people that are listening can really walk away with, this is great. Yeah. I can get started and here's how I can keep going. So can you just give us a little bit of background about your journey and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so most people know me as the Fit to Fat to Fit guy, right? Actually, no one really knows my name, Drew Manning, which is kind of funny. When they see me in public, they're like, oh, yeah, you're the Fit to Fat to Fit guy. I'm like, yeah, which is cool. So basically, for those that don't know, I did Fit to Fat to Fit 6 years ago, where I was this personal trainer, just a typical trainer with six-pack abs, right, just like everyone else. Mm-hmm. But I grew up my entire life that way, right? Most trainers, or people in shape kind of had good genetics, right? And it was easy for them to live that way. That was me. I grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters. We all played sports. I played football and wrestling since I was a little kid. And so for me, I never struggled with my weight. I always kind of had a good physique and was blessed genetically to look that way. I worked hard. Don't get me wrong. I worked hard as well. but I never knew any differently. And so for me, when I became a personal trainer in 2009, there was an obvious disconnect between me and my clients. You know, they would tell me, you know, Drew, I didn't follow the meal plans like you told me to. I cheated. Right. I had some soda or whatever it was. And I would get frustrated with them. Like, why is it so hard for you just to do what I tell you to do? You just do it. Like, you just put the junk food down, you go to the gym, it's not that hard. And they would be like, well, you don't understand because you've always been that way and for you it's easy. And I'm like, yeah, it is easy. You just do it. Like, what's wrong? And so anyways, when they would tell me those things, I would kind of take it to heart. And the one that really set in was with my brother-in-law. And he, you know, when he told me that, I was like, okay, maybe there's something I need to learn as a trainer. Maybe I'm wrong. And so I was thinking of ideas of how I could better relate to my clients. And I know this sounds crazy, Calvin, but the idea of getting fat on purpose made sense in my mind. It felt like, I don't know if you ever felt like you've been called to do something. Yeah. It felt like this was a calling. Right. You know, I felt like, I even Googled it to see if anybody had done it before on purpose.
Had anybody done it?
No one had done. I mean, not on purpose at least, right?
Right, yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? I think I need to do this. And I checked with my family and friends, and I told them I have this crazy idea that I'm really thinking I'm going to do. And they're like, everyone was supportive of it. And so I decided to run with it. And so for the idea was for 6 months, no exercise, eat whatever I wanted to, and I wanted to focus on the foods that my clients told me they couldn't give up. Right. So soda and sugary, you know, treats and things like that. And so for 6 months I had to do that.
6 months of fun.
Exactly. That's the way I thought. I'm like, this is gonna be fun, man.
Yeah.
And then 6 months of losing it, walk the walk, put my money where my mouth is, and show people this is how you lose the weight. And so that was the idea in a nutshell. And so that's how I got started.
Man, I think that's really encouraging. So you were doing it basically to be able to create empathy. Is that what you were trying to do with the clients?
Exactly. That was the number one reason, was for me to gain a better understanding, have empathy, and more respect for my clients. And I figured, that whole, saying of walk a mile in your client's shoes, this really was trying to do that. Right. Not that it would be exactly the same, but at least it would give me a better understanding. So that was my main why. Mm-hmm. Also, the other reasons were I want to inspire people in a totally different, backwards way. We all watch Biggest Loser, Extreme Weight Loss. Mm-hmm. Seeing someone transform from obese to skinny and fit is always inspiring. It always, we're like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Doing it backwards, I wanted to put it to the test to see if that would also inspire people. And then the third reason was I wanted to show people just how unhealthy the typical American diet really is, the sad diet, right? Because a lot of the foods that I ate are surprising to people. And a lot of these foods people think aren't that unhealthy for them. They're like, oh, this isn't that bad. But these are the foods that we've been eating for, decades now, and it's killing us.
So when you did that, what did you discover when you started to eat the food, gain the weight? Week 2, week 3, week 4, what were you discovering?
So at first, my first discovery was how fun it was.
Yes, it's fun.
Letting myself go. Like, I would go to the grocery store, skip the produce section, go straight down the cereal aisle, the soda aisle, the junk food aisle, and just, how many options do we need to have, right? Like, it was like a kid in a candy store.
Now, were you working out?
No exercise for the entire 6 months. So I didn't. That was another sense of like freedom, quote. And I have quotes up here, quote unquote freedom. Yeah. Because I could do whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and it was fun for about a month. And then about a month in, I started snoring, which affected my sleep, which affected my mood, which affected my energy levels, which affected my personality. And then I started breathing heavy walking up the stairs. And then I would try and clip my toenails one time. I remember I had to hold my breath and I had to come up for air. And I've never experienced these things before. Wow. So really quickly, that sense of freedom that I had started to go away, Now,
how much weight did you gain?
24 pounds in the first month.
In the first month?
In the first month.
Oh, my gosh. How many pounds did you gain?
Overall. 76 pounds. So 193 to 269 at my heaviest.
Now, I would still take that number, Drew. I'm just going to keep that.
I know. It's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective. You are totally right. But I will take that 269 in a day. If I get 269, that means I'm winning. But for you, that's pretty new.
Yeah, for me.
For you to do that. And so what did you discover after you gained the weight, and how did you feel from when you were skinny?
Yeah, that's a great question. So physically, there was those little small changes that kind of surprised me, but I was, for the most part, prepared to become a little bit bigger physically, or a lot bigger physically for me, right? The biggest surprise, honestly, was on the mental and emotional side. So here's the thing. When you grow up your entire life in shape, part of your identity is based on what your body looks like. And unfortunately, the opposite of that is true as well. If you grew up your entire life out of shape, part of your identity is based on what your body looks like. So for me, once I lost my six-pack and my muscles, I didn't know who I was. So I freaked out. I wanted to go up to complete strangers in public and say, hey, I'm not really this way. This is my before picture. Go to this website. It's just an experiment. This isn't really me. I didn't feel like it was really me. And it messed with my self-esteem and my self-confidence. I remember at the time when I was married, I covered up stepping out of the shower, you know, in front of my wife. I didn't want her to see me naked. I didn't want to see myself naked. And the lights were off in intimate situations as well because I was so self-conscious, and I started to lose my confidence. And so that was the biggest surprise, was on the mental and emotional side, was how this was affecting me at the very core of who I was, and I wasn't prepared for that.
So when you started to identify these new emotions, did it give you perspective to people that are struggling? So now that you're like, man, I can't just talk to Johnny the same way training-wise because I get where he's struggling. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%. Because here's the thing. Before, as a trainer, all I could connect with them on was the physical side. Hey, let's change up your meal plans, your macros, your calories, your workouts, because that's all I knew. But once I started discovering this, the mental and emotional struggles, and how much of transformation is mental and emotional, I realized how wrong I was. Right? I realized just how wrong I had been approaching to helping people, because all my focus was on the physical side.
Right.
And that's not where people need help. Right? No, most people know they need to eat healthy and exercise. That's not like a lack of knowledge. It's on the mental and emotional side that people struggle. And once I started seeing these struggles of my own self-identity and the way I viewed this weight gaining journey, I realized just how I needed to change my ways of trying to help people instead of focusing on the physical. And now I need to focus so much more on the mental and emotional side.
Well, that's the thing that I want to just interject, because for those that are watching, my story was, I started in 2002. I went on a journey to lose weight. I lost over 250 pounds in about 18 months.
Crazy.
And then kept it off for 6.5, 7 years. Then come to find out that all my family passed within that same year. Mom, dad, grandmother, everybody. It was just like everybody. I don't have aunts and uncles. It was just me and my sister. And I put the do not disturb sign on my life. Didn't want people to get back into my life as far as giving me advice. I mean, I remember sitting at my dad's funeral and people were like, you putting on weight again. I mean, at the funeral.
Yeah.
And I just been really judged externally. But what people really didn't understand, that it was emotional. And there was no one around me that even said, hey, Calvin, why don't you go get counseling or go to a therapist or work on their mental health? Because I kind of appear as the strong guy. He has it all together and he'll be fine. I know it's tough. He'll make it through. But man, internally, dude, I was struggling. I mean, like, it's when the unconditional love sources in your life are removed, and the people that are always there for you that you know you can count on, when they're no longer around, there was just a big void.
Yeah.
And I'm an emotional eater. And so I think a lot of people, whether it's if our money is funny, we tend to medicate with food, or if we're feeling lonely, and I feel like there's been trainer after trainer. Everybody's talking about the diet. Everybody's talking about the workout method and how you can do this in your apartment or in your gym with these bands. And there's no one talking about the emotional aspect of weight loss. I mean, because I believe that that's what it is more than, me going to the gym or doing CrossFit. I think it starts, mind, body, and spirit. And so when I found out about your story, it was almost like it differentiated you in front of everybody, because you did this to yourself as a goal to get empathy. We both love Brene Brown, but I love her whole thing versus empathy versus sympathy. And it's that thing where people sometimes look down at you with sympathy and they're like, oh man, that's too bad. You just need to come on up here though. Versus having someone that gets down in the pit with you and identifies with that same space that you're in and say, you know what? I get it. Like, I get where you're at. And so for you, it seems to me that you got down in the pit with the people that struggle with the weight. You've gained 76 pounds, and you were dealing with emotional. Now, I got to ask you this because well, a lot of times when I talk to people that are fit, they say things like, oh man, I do this for the mental clarity, and I do this because it makes me feel better. What do you say was a lot of people's reasons for working out? Like, honestly, don't give me the, I know it's clarity, but like one person I talked to recently, and I just grilled him. I said, why do you really lose it? Why do you work out so much? And why do you, and he said, you know what it is, man? I just want to look good naked. Like, oh, and it just was helpful. It was honest. Like, it was really honest. But what's the motivation? Like, is it just something that you're like, like eating healthy, or you like this, or how did you get to be passionate about it?
I think it's a couple things. Like, obviously growing up, I'll be honest with you, I was that guy, especially before Fit, that was vain, that liked to look good, for other people, right? Because it made me feel good about myself. And it kind of was like a status symbol, almost like, oh, if I go out in public, I'm known as the confident fit guy. And that was a good feeling, I'm not gonna lie. But how it's changed for me over the years is, of course I like to look good, but at what expense, at what cost? I'm a dad of 2 now, right? And I have to set an example for them. And I want to be around for grandkids and great-grandkids and teach them healthy habits. So for me, my why is totally different. Yes, there's still that part where I like to look good, but it's more than that for me. With setting an example for my girls, being strong for them helps me to eat healthy, because I know the benefits of what I'm doing for the long term. It's kind of like investing. Like, why do we invest money? Why don't we just spend it all right now? Right? We know that we're going to need money later on down the road. So we're investing in ourselves with health. So that's the way I look at what I eat now. But don't get me wrong. I was at my daughter's, they had a picnic at their school last night, and I had like 2 pumpkin cookies and 2 brownies. And I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't have had that, but I did it anyways. And you know what? I've gotten out of that guilt and shame cycle of how food has control over us. Why do we as humans allow food, which is energy for us, make us feel guilty and ashamed? That hasn't happened until like the past 100 years. We've all of a sudden been obsessed with weight loss, and we place our value on what we look like and what our weight is. When in reality, like, our ancestors never had to deal with that. Like, why are we so strange that we have a scale that measures our relationship with gravity, and we define ourselves by that number? Or we define ourselves by how big or how little we are. We live in a silly world. It's an amazing time, but it's a weird time. I'm not gonna lie. But it's just we give power. What has power over us is what we give it power to. Right? Does that make sense?
Exactly.
So I'm not a big fan of like scale weight. I'm not a big fan of body fat percentage and aesthetics and physical looks. But health to me should be our first goal. Healthy habits, not the results, not the outcome, but the healthy habits and the process. That's where our effort should be focused on, rather than placing value on ourselves based on if we get there one day, like if we get skinny or if we get a 6-pack. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I think, for those that are listening, I want to really dive into the practical, the ketogenic. I want to talk about workouts. The big question is, what do I need to do? What do people that are struggling with at least 100 pounds or more, or people that are, whoever's classified as obese, I'm what they would call morbidly obese, but what do people need to do? Like, I know that you do the ketogenic diet, and can you just at least explain that so that we know what that is first?
Sure. So first, before we get into that, I just want to let people know that, look, I could give you the best meal plan advice, the best workout advice, the best trainer in the world. None of that matters to someone that doesn't know how to overcome their mental and emotional challenges. So first and foremost, like we talked about in the beginning, it's not just about the physical side of weight loss. It's not meal plans and exercises. It's the application of it. How do we, start living a healthy lifestyle, right? And it all has to do with overcoming our mental and emotional challenges. So I'm a big fan of things like meditation, positive affirmations, breathing techniques, counseling, therapy. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be 1 hour of lifting heavy in the gym, kicking your butt on the cardio machine, starving yourself, like we see in the magazines and we see on TV and we see on Dr. Oz. Like, I get that. People understand that part of it. People need to understand that they are worth it to be healthy. Not to be skinny, not to like have 10% body fat. They're worth it just to have their health back. And I think if people could feel what it's like to be healthy again, I think that's right there should hopefully help motivate them to get to a point where they start caring about themselves enough to make those changes. But just understand that the journey is a long journey. It's one step in front of the other. So, okay, let's talk about keto now because people want to know about that, and I'm a big fan of it because I think it can work for a lot of people because here's the thing, the food tastes good. So the keto diet.
Now I'm going to play that. Now, before you even tell it, I'm going to play the devil's advocate because I just did a little research about it, but I really don't know everything about it. So you go ahead and start, and I may interject with hope. With some questions.
Yeah, you raise your hand. You let me know. Okay. So the keto diet was first discovered back in the 1920s to help kids with epilepsy and seizures. So for whatever reason, it helped these kids that were drug resistant to the drugs they were giving them to help them with their seizures. Anyways, so it's been around for a while. But the keto diet, what it is in a nutshell, is it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. Versus the opposite here in America, we grew up on high carbs, moderate protein, low fat. That's what we've been taught was healthy. But that's where a lot of people struggle with health issues, right? So 70% of your calories are coming from healthy sources of fat. So things like coconut oil and avocados and eggs and fattier cuts of meat and full fat cheeses and heavy creams, butter, things like that are high in fat that we've been taught are bad for us. 70% of your calories are coming from those foods. Then only 25% from protein. So it's not Atkins where you're eating high protein, high fat, and then 5% carbohydrates. So very low carb. And basically what this does is it puts your body in a different metabolic state where you're using your own fat stores as energy versus sugar or carbohydrates, right? If you eat bread, pasta, rice, it all gets turned to sugar.
Okay.
So most of us are sugar burners. But what keto does is it causes your body to use its own fat as energy. So your body converts the fat into these things called ketones in the liver, and then ketones are then used as energy for your brain, your muscles, your organs. Just like we use sugar for energy, right? So our body breaks down breads and pastas and rices and converts that into glucose, which is sugar, and then our bodies can use that as energy. Well, your body can do that with fat as well, but through something called ketones. And so those ketones are used as energy. So it puts your body into a state where you're using fat as energy. That's basically what keto is in a nutshell.
So, okay, so the people that are like me, we're listening, we're saying, okay, I hear you, but the first thing that goes off in my mind, oh, this ain't nothing but Atkins. This is low carbs. When you say 5% carbs, in my brain, that's like, there go bread. Yep, say goodbye to bread. And 5%, like, what is 5% carbs? Like, oh, that means you can have your sandwich with the bun? Or does that mean like, well, no, you can't eat your sandwich with the bun. The most carbs that you're going to be able to eat are, beans.
No, so here's the thing. So 5% carbs is around 30 grams of carbohydrates or less.
30 grams.
30
and that's
grams.
like 2 slices of bread.
1 slice of bread.
Ooh. Jesus.
Or, so what I tell people is like, okay, you're going to get your carbohydrates now from vegetables instead. And when I say vegetables, I don't mean French fries and ketchup. That does not count. So I'm talking about, nutrient-dense vegetables, but you're sauteing those vegetables in lard, butter, coconut oil, adding
butter.
salt. Yeah, so trust me, I know butter's your friend.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be missing butter.
So wait a minute. So does that mean that you're not able to do vegetables?
You can do vegetables.
But not a lot.
You can get like those types of vegetables, you can eat almost unlimited amounts. But if you're adding in starchy vegetables like potatoes or carrots.
Okay, so the green leafy you can eat like broccoli.
Yeah, you should be fine.
Okay.
You're not going to overeat that.
Now, what about the fiber? Does the diet change with keto fiber-wise?
As long as you're eating those vegetables as your carbohydrate sources versus grains. If you're eating grains, which are, like I said, 1 slice of bread, you're not going to get a lot of fiber. But if you eat 30 grams of broccoli, that's a lot of fiber. Right. So you should be good to go.
So, okay. So then wait a minute. Now, the next question is, all right, well then I'll eat the fat. I'll eat, the lower carbs. Can I eat more in quantity? Or is it like, no, I only mean a certain amount of quantity with this? How does that work?
So the way that I normally teach people to do the keto diet is listen to your body. And I know it sounds weird because we were taught like, oh, some people on certain diets are like, oh, you just eat till you're full and then you stop, or you eat till you're full and then when you're hungry you eat again, right? But with a keto diet, it's really hard to overeat because you're eating so much fat and protein. When you combine those two, it's very satiating. So people that when they first start out on the keto diet, they're not starving because they're eating a lot of calorie-dense foods. Like you're adding butter and coconut oil and these high-quality fats to your foods. So you're going to feel fuller a lot longer.
Now, does it mean, okay, so once again, I'm playing the dummy.
Okay.
I wake up tomorrow morning. I'm starting keto.
Okay.
I'm going with bacon and eggs and cheese.
That's a perfect start.
No, shut up.
Bacon, eggs, cheese, but add butter to it. And then add some leafy greens, some spinach or broccoli or kale to get some fiber, right? And then you'll be surprised how full you are. And then, but obviously there's no biscuits.
How much though? Now how much,
Here's the thing. I eat probably like 4 to 5 eggs with 2 tablespoons of butter. Add in some full fat mozzarella cheese. And saute my broccoli or spinach and butter or bacon fat.
Now, I got to say this. Now, people, okay, when I lost weight the first time, people was like, no, you can't. Your cholesterol, if you eat that many eggs, your cholesterol, you got to do egg whites. I'm sorry, that's my trainer voice.
That was a good trainer voice.
That's my trainer voice. But they say you gotta eat egg whites. And so but you're saying I can eat regular eggs with cheese and bacon as my meal, and that's considered healthy.
Yes, if you take out the carbohydrates. So
if you take out the
exactly, but if you're eating that with pancakes and biscuits, that's where you're going to have some issues. But so here's the thing: we've been lied to about a lot of things, about the dangers of fat, the dangers of eating too much salt.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. What are the things that we've been lied to? Because as I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait, man, hold on. It makes me want to call every trainer, every nutritionist I have and say, hey, you lied to me.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we've been taught? Like, one, we got to eat 6 times a day.
Yeah.
Is that true or not true?
That's not true. So there's studies showing that your metabolism has zero effect based on how frequent you eat versus like if you had 6 meals versus 2 meals, but you ate around the same amount of calories, it has zero effect on your metabolism.
Really?
Exactly. But I was one of those trainers that said you got to eat, otherwise your metabolism will slow down. But studies show that only after 60 hours of fasting will it affect your metabolism by 8%. After 60 hours, that's a long time. That's like 2.5 days, right? So if you go a few hours between meals, your metabolism isn't going to slow down. So that's one thing. Second thing is how bad fat is. So recently there was an NPR article showing that these doctors back in the 70s were paid to lie about the dangers of fat, and they were paid by the sugar industry to kind of demonize fat. And this was released at NPR. It was on New York Times. You can Google it. Basically, fat was villainized because these sugar companies were profiting from these cheap corn, wheat, and soy products that we were selling in our grocery stores that taste good. I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch tastes delicious. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
you can eat that all day.
Dude, don't get me talking about the food, yes.
So that's the thing. Is like we made America hooked on these cheap, easy foods that are really convenient and easy to make, that are affordable. But then we were told stay away from fat. And look what it's done to our country. Look back at the statistics of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s of how our obesity rates climbed, even though we all went low fat, right? And so cholesterol and fat, we were taught it's bad for you. But now we're learning through newer science that it's actually really healthy for you. And our ancestors have been eating it for, thousands of years.
Yeah.
They didn't have Cinnamon Toast Crunch back then.
They had bacon and eggs and cheese.
Exactly,
Well,
yeah.
maybe not cheese. Did they have cheese?
Maybe not cheese.
Maybe not cheese,
Who
but
knows?
yes.
But so what I'm saying is, okay, so there's a couple lies, but we just need to unwind the program that we've had and just be open to it.
Okay.
Just be open to it. And you got to be strict with keto. Keto is either you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent with it.
Now that concerns me,
Okay.
and maybe people listening and watching. How do you, okay, so what I hear is if you get off of it, you'll gain it all right back, immediately.
That's not true.
Okay.
No, it's not like you're going to gain all back. But here's the thing. When you shift over from a carbohydrate to a fat-rich diet, your body expels a lot of water. So your body's not retaining as much. So initially you're going to lose a lot of water weight. the same thing happens when you go from eating high-fat keto diet to then you have a huge high-carb meal. For a few days, you're going to retain a lot of water because you ate a ton of carbohydrates, right?
Right.
Think about it this way. When you have a piece of bread and you put it in a glass of water, that bread's going to soak up a lot of the water. But if you have a glass full of, or half full of oil, and you add water to it, they separate. The fat doesn't, retain that water. So that's how the keto diet kind of works. Initially, you're going to lose a lot of water, but then when you eat, a huge high carb meal, your body's going to retain a lot of water afterwards. So a lot of people think, oh, you're going to gain the weight back. No, but if you go back to eating keto again, you're going to lose that. Well, it's just water weight, right? Don't worry about that.
Yeah. So then I guess the big question is how can you do this as a lifestyle?
Sure.
Like, because people like me, it's going to take me a couple years, to really get back to where I was before. How do you make this a lifestyle?
Great question.
Are you? Because I know you're doing it, but
Yeah.
there's other motivations, external motivations, as far as I do this for a living. I'm a trainer. My work, my job is all kind of intertwined together. Versus the person that isn't a spokesperson or isn't a trainer that has an image to upkeep. How can people live off of this as a lifestyle?
So I'm going to blow your mind with one crazy Guinness Book of World Record stat, and that is, and then I'll answer that question. There was a man who lived off of his own fat stores, so he didn't eat any food for 382 days. And it's documented in the medical literature. This is back in the 1960s. He was monitored by a doctor, and 382 days, he lived off of his own fat stores. Now, he had water, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, right, to make sure that he was still alive. But he lost over 200 plus pounds living off of his own fat. So that's what keto is, right? When you have no food, it's your body's backup system so you can live for a long time.
Well, I got a couple years. I can live. I
So,
can live for a couple years.
Is that a lifestyle? No. Not
Yeah.
eating again? No. But what I'm saying is, okay, so just to put it into perspective, like that guy did that for 382 days, which blows people's minds that someone could do that, because we think we'll die after a few hours without food, right?
Well, that's
because we've been
true.
trained that way. So how do you live keto as a lifestyle? So initially, the initial adaptation phase needs to happen strict for 60 days, around 60 days. So be 100% strict for 60 days, see how your body reacts, see how you feel, and then after those 60 days, we can talk about implementing what's called a cyclical ketogenic diet.
What's that?
So you cycle in and out of it. So maybe you do it strict for 60 days, and then maybe you allow yourself some healthy carbs on the weekends, some sweet potatoes, some white potatoes, some rice, whatever it is, and then maybe do that for a couple days, and then you go back into keto again for a week or two, right? And get the benefits of that. But the key is that adaptation phase. You can't just do keto for a few days at first, because your body isn't efficient at using ketones yet. It takes a long time to get adapted because it's been running off glucose for years and decades now. And now you're saying, okay, no more glucose, which your body wants. The glucose is like a drug. Your body wants that high. It takes a while to adapt to the ketones as an energy source. So you got to give it at least 60 days. And then from there, now that your body is efficient at using ketones, it knows how to get back in and out of ketosis a lot quicker. So let's say you have a what's called a carb refeed with sweet potatoes and white potatoes and rice and all that. Then you get back into ketosis a lot quicker. Versus if you just did keto for a couple days and you had donuts, and then you're basically starting back all over again.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
So stay strict for 60 days and then cycle in and out of it, but with healthy carbohydrates, just like you do like a normal healthy lifestyle.
Okay, so then let me ask this question.
Okay.
Now, we've watched the show Biggest Loser. We've watched Extreme Weight Loss. You even have a show on A&E called Fit to Fat to Fit. And for those that don't know, that's where the trainers would gain weight in a certain amount of time to gain empathy with the client, and then they would lose it together, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so let's just say we got a new program going. It's me and you, and it's people that really have a long journey ahead of them. How would you start me or people that are like myself? Like, what's the phase one? What would be your first approach to helping us lose weight?
Yeah.
Would we be picking up tires like we see on Biggest Loser, or is it? Cause I'm gonna be honest. That kind of stuff is like, dude, that's scary.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be honest. one of the things that I think why people can do those shows is it's because the promise of a better life. I've had friends, people that have been on some of these shows, you get paid,
Yep.
and I haven't been able to really pinpoint this, but I think money is a huge component to weight loss.
Yeah.
I really do, because I believe that a lot of us are emotional eaters. And so, if you don't have a lot of money, or if it's tight, if you're living check to check, for me to go on The Biggest Loser and to make $10,000 an episode, or to win at the end of the season to make 250 grand, that's motivating. And I always say vision gives you passion, and passion gives you discipline. Like a woman that gets married, if she's getting married next April, she's all she's thinking about is getting in the dress. And she's got the passion and the discipline because she sees something.
Yeah.
And I think vision is a key point. And so I'm asking the question of, we need some kind of vision to say, because right now, if I'm being honest, my mountain is like these mountains in Utah.
Yeah.
They're beautiful, but they're big and they're
Yeah.
overwhelming. And you stand there at the bottom of the mountain and you're looking up like, man, this is going to take me a long time to lose all the weight like I did before. And I'm trying to find the motivation. And I know that if I start smaller,
Yep.
we can get it there. So what would you suggest? What's a phase one
Sure.
for people that have, 100 pounds to lose? What would you say? And maybe what diet or what program would you start them on?
That's a great question. And honestly, like I said before, like The Biggest Loser, it's like, okay, let's get you moving a lot more. The more exercise you do, the more you'll lose. But there's actually studies showing exercise has little to no effect on weight loss.
See,
Actually,
come on,
some
I
people
knew it,
gain
y'all.
weight.
I told y'all. Okay, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's true. Like there's studies showing that exercise has little to do with weight loss. A lot of it has to do with your nutrition and
So
your hormones and your.
Okay, so people do that a lot. I
Okay.
see people work out a lot, and they're like, I mean, they're at the sports place, they're picking up tires, they're dipping their pull-ups, and they're not really getting the weight loss. It's because of the nutrition.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying is your goal is to help people realize that you got to get the nutrition part before you can even do the exercise part.
But there's such a strong emotional attachment to food, and that's why people need to figure out what their why is and develop that self-belief and that self-worth initially. Because, like I said before, you could give someone the best meal plans, but none of that matters if they don't know, how to overcome their mental and emotional challenges. So yes, I do believe in giving people a vision, but that's temporary, right? Because then after the wedding or after they win the show, a lot of people gain the weight back. So what's going to be lasting? It's not just the vision. It has to do with their self-belief and their self-worth. Like, do I deserve to be healthy? Do I deserve to live the best life possible? Some people don't think they deserve it. So they're like, well, I'm a failure anyway, so I might as well just live in this self-pity the rest of my life.
So what would you put us on in the first month?
So here's the thing. The reason the keto diet has been so successful recently is because the food tastes good and you don't have to count calories. So basically you eat till you're full because you're eating a lot of fat, and your body's going to let you know if you eat too much fat, right? Try and overeat butter, or coconut oil.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to get full pretty quickly. And so your body's going to let you know when you're full. Unlike carbohydrates, which you can eat a lot of, and your body will say keep eating, right? So with fat and the keto diet, I think a lot of people will find really successful because the food tastes good. You're adding salt and butter to all your foods, and you're getting in a lot of foods that you enjoy. Now, yes, you're cutting out the carbohydrates, but you're getting a lot of foods, comfort foods, versus like a typical traditional diet where you're eating steamed broccoli and boiled chicken breast with no salt.
Right.
So the keto diet, I think, would be a great place to start. Even though it might be strict at first, you're not going to feel hungry, so it's not starving yourself. You're not trying to cut back on calories. You're eating till you're full. And so I think a lot of people would find that successful. But honestly, if it was me, I would focus on the mental and emotional side of it as we're implementing the physical.
Right.
And so then as far as the exercise goes, like we said before, there's studies showing exercise has little to no effect on actual weight loss, but just getting up and moving your body. It doesn't have to be a structured set workout where it's like 3 sets of 10, push it to the limit. No, we don't need to do that initially. Honestly, like I said, if we could get your habits down with the nutrition, because that's the hardest part, but it's the most important part, that's going to give you more results than if we just
Yes.
killed yourself in the gym every single day.
One of the things that I could say is that I've really been doing the emotional work.
Yeah.
You know, in the last couple years, I went to a great counseling place.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm emotionally stronger than I've ever been. And so now, in the last month, I have been working on losing, but I had tried the intermittent fasting.
Yes.
Which I want to, transition into that because I follow you and I hear you talk about intermittent fasting, and all I'm looking for right now is, I can do that. Something easy that I think I could do. And so when you said it and talked about it, I was like, oh, let me just try that. So can you just tell us a little bit about what intermittent can't even say it.
Intermittent.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that is?
So fasting has been around for centuries. Intermittent fasting is like for short periods of time. So, you do it on a daily basis. We all fast. When we sleep, we're fasting. People don't know that. But when we're asleep, we fast for 8 hours. And your body wakes up and it's thirsty and it's hungry, right? So intermittent fasting, you're kind of extending that window a little bit of fasting, and you're shortening your eating window. So instead of eating the second you wake up, you wait 2 to 4 hours before you have your first meal, right? So there's so many health benefits to fasting, things like killing off cancer cells, fighting off disease, strengthening your immune system, better digestion, anti-aging, cell regeneration. So there's a lot of benefits to fasting. So basically, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, you have your last meal at night, like at 6 or 7 p.m. You go to sleep. You wake up, you have maybe coffee, black coffee, nothing added to it, no cream or sugar. You have tea, you have water, and then you go till about noon, and then you have your first meal at noon. Yeah, you're going to be hungry, and that's fine, but you're shortening that window that you're eating. You're going to be eating less, even though at first you're going to be, kind of starving. And initially, your body will adjust to that kind of schedule that you're putting yourself on.
So you can eat at noon. So your first meal is going, like, let's say what time, if you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Then you should have stopped eating by
probably 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
And then you get up and then you wait till noon to eat.
Wait till noon, and then your eating windows from noon to 8 p.m. And whether you eat 2 meals or 3 meals, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. There's still benefits to it.
Okay, so stop and pause, because in my mind, or anybody that's struggling with weight, guys, y'all know this feels right. Like, oh, I got from 12 to 8 to eat.
Yep.
Some of us like to sleep late anyway, and so I'm like, well, if I get up at 10, I'm only waiting a couple of hours to eat. And so what I've been doing in the last 30 days, I've been doing the intermittent fasting, and I've probably lost at least 20, 25 pounds. And all I do is I get up in the morning and I wait and I drink water. I love to drink water.
Yep.
And then at lunchtime, I'll go to Swanky's Taco Shop and have like a salad with a little bit of rice and beans and chicken and steak and pico de gallo and corn salsa and a few little tortilla strips with ranch.
Okay.
And then for dinner, I'll just go to Chipotle and get a burrito bowl with brown rice, black beans, chicken or steak, the same thing, with a little bit of sour cream and cheese. And that's,
how do you feel?
I feel amazing. I feel like this, it's working.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's working, because in my mind, the voice in my head is saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. Or all the trainers that were out there, all the He-Men that are out there, they would say, you're doing this wrong, you're slowing down your metabolism.
Yeah.
You need to be eating, once again, I'm in my trainer voice.
Yep.
You need to be eating, in breakfast to kickstart your metabolism.
Yeah.
And so is what I'm doing correct? Is that how this works?
Absolutely. And that's the problem, is like we kind of have been of that mindset for years, but we didn't understand why. Like, oh, your metabolism is kickstarted when you eat breakfast. How does that work? Well, no one really knows, but that's what we've been told. But if you look at the science, it's actually not true. Like I said, your metabolism doesn't slow down until after 60 hours of fasting. So your body's good. We haven't had access to 3 meals a day, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400. Just the past 100 years, we've had access to that. That doesn't make.
So wait a minute, I got it. So basically, in my head, what's going through my head right now is intermittent fasting is the treasure in the field. It's the diamond.
It could be for
For
a lot
me.
of people. For you, yes. For a lot of people, I think it will work, right? But so many people are still stuck in the mindset of I gotta have breakfast, gotta eat lunch, gotta eat dinner, which does work for some people. I'm not gonna lie, but if you're looking for something new to try, be open to it. Now, here's the other thing too. If you want to bring it to the next level, is combine intermittent fasting with ketogenic diet.
Oh, you
So
killing
now
it,
you're
man.
doing bacon, eggs, cheese for that first meal instead of, your taco salad or whatever.
Yeah.
And then for dinner, you have a couple grass-fed burgers, beef burgers with bacon and avocado, and then a side of sautéed vegetables and duck lard or something like that.
Duck lard.
It's really good, by the way. I've been using that recently.
What is duck lard?
It's just duck fat, pure duck fat.
Okay.
It's really healthy, and so you add that to your
Wow.
vegetables. It gives it some good flavor, good smoky flavor.
Now, can you have a combination of the two? Or keto is like
Either
it's all in. It's one or the other.
Yeah, but still, you could still receive benefits from having one of those meals be low carb, right? And that's fine, and you'll still receive benefits to that. But what I'm saying is, if you want to up your game and start doing 100% keto with intermittent fasting, it's gonna accelerate those results. But let's say you have your meal one, instead of the taco salad, you have eggs and bacon and cheese, right? You're still lowering the amount of carbohydrates you're eating, so you're lowering your insulin response. So, and then dinner you can have whatever, your brown rice, burrito bowl. That's fine. You're still going to see benefits from intermittent fasting and lowering your carbs a little bit.
So would you say, if you had to grade me, and I'm pretty true to that. Like I'm pretty true to what I just suggested that I eat. What would you grade that as my trainer? What would you say, Calvin? Phase 1, you gotta.
As far as intermittent fasting goes, you got a 10 out of 10. That's
Yes,
good, man.
come on, A+. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And the food tastes good. You don't feel deprived. You feel good.
No.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, so for you, it's good.
And then if I wanted to go to breakfast, and I can just say, I'll just do the eggs and bacon and do it without, lower carb.
Yeah. And what you can do, intermittent fasting doesn't always have to look a certain way, like noon to 8 p.m. I know some people that eat a big breakfast and then they intermittent fast during the day and they eat a big meal at night, and that still reaps benefits going the whole day without food. But it depends on your schedule.
Some people just do one meal a day.
Exactly. So I've been experimenting with doing one meal a day, and saw awesome benefits. I didn't lose any weight because I wasn't trying to. But my performance in the gym and my mental clarity and cognitive function were so much better. My digestion was so much better. Because here's the thing: when you're eating every 3 hours, your digestive system, you have to expend so much energy trying to digest food. Now your body can work on cell regeneration and balancing out your hormones, things that it knows it needs to fix. But when it's constantly having to digest food, a lot of energy goes to digesting food. So you're giving your body a break.
So basically, you think that from your perspective, it's a lot easier than what we make it. Is that a correct assumption?
In our mind, yes, but we make things difficult in our head.
Yeah, I always say, it's not that diet don't work, it's that people don't work.
People don't work. That's very true.
And I am that guy that, and that's what I love about when I follow you. Like, you're not just saying this only, even though it's clear that you love keto and that's your thing that you love. But I also hear you saying, just talk, briefly about exploration. You talk about exploring different things. And most trainers don't do that because they're like, it's this way or no way. Do you condone exploration for your fitness goals?
Yeah, 100%. Be open. Different things work for different people. So be open to new protocols that you've never tried before. If you haven't tried it, how do you know it doesn't work for you? And we're listening to other people tell us what's optimal for us, but you're the only way to know if what's optimal for you. Just your own experimentation. So become your own self-experimentation and test it out. You've never tried veganism? How do you know it's not right for you?
Right.
Try it for 60 days and see how it goes. Don't try it for a day and be like, oh, that sucks.
Right.
Same thing with keto. Same thing with intermittent fasting. Be open to new things, because what might work for you now might not work for you, down the road. So
if I try keto,
yeah,
let's just say in my journey, I'm going to try a few things. I'm going to try keto. I'm going to try, this one over here, this one over here. How long would you say that I need to be committed to keto? And then once I do it, how would I transition to something else?
I do it. No matter which protocol you choose, I would say a minimum of 60 days.
60 days.
That really gives your body time to adjust to what you're doing. right? Not 60 hours, 60 days. Like really give it a 100% consistent try. And then from there, if it's too hard, not sustainable, that's fine. Then let's find a balanced approach that works for you. But any protocol you choose, try and stick to it for 60 days.
But but the intermittent fasting, I can keep that forever.
You can keep that forever, for sure. But here's the thing for me. I do intermittent fasting. I do a keto, but I'm not 100% all the time. Like, some days, I'll have breakfast with my girls, or I'm on vacation
Right.
and there's a really good breakfast to serve to me. I'm not going to be like, excuse me, I'm intermittent fasting. I'm not going to eat that.
Right.
Or I'm at like a family's house.
But it's really about the good outweighing the bad.
Exactly. Yeah. 80, 20, 90, 10, somewhere within that range where you're eating 80 or 90% good, most of the time. And then 20% to 10%, you live life.
Now, do you eat cake, Drew?
I do. I had some last
'cause,
night.
I love cake. I didn't know, because, you look like you don't eat anything that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
But you just balance it out. It's all about perspective.
Yeah, but I have a different relationship. Like your situation is totally different. Your emotional attachment to food is different. Like when you said what you went through, made me think of, I know this sounds weird, but Mike Tyson's quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, oh, I'm going to stay to this. And then boom, you get punched in the face. Then you're like,
That's exactly what it was.
And so it's like, you can't judge someone that's been through something like that and say, oh, well, they should have been more disciplined. It's like, no, have you gone through that? No.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm saying is, life happens and it's going to get in the way. And don't beat yourself up over choices you made during those moments in time where you put your do not disturb sign up.
Yeah.
Right. And but just my hope is that I want you to know, Calvin, that you're worth it to keep fighting. And that's why you're here. You're here in Salt Lake City, Utah, because you know that you're still worth it, right? You're still putting forth an effort. Even though it's going to be hard as hell, you got a hard journey ahead of you.
Right.
How do you get up the mountain? Just one step in front of the other. It's not, you don't jump to the top all at once.
Yeah. You have to sit on the rock for a little bit.
Even for like an hour, or a day or two, until you're ready to go again. And that's fine. There's no race to the finish line. We don't have to race to the finish line. There is no finish line, really. If you think about it, there is no finish line. We're always progressing forward. And yes, sometimes we sabotage ourselves, and sometimes others, we let them sabotage us. But at the end of the day, this life's too short to suffer and be in misery. We weren't put on this earth to be miserable, right? We're here to have joy and be happy. And yes, food does bring us happiness. More for some people, more than others.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because we all have our own vices. We all have our own addictions.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, you can see yours,
Yeah.
right? And other people's,
Yeah,
they do
I
it
say it
behind
all the
closed
time.
doors.
We all have an appetite out of control. You just see mine.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
everybody has one, and so, it's tough though, man. I can go through the airport. I get the looks all day long. Flying out. Anything. I always get the looks, and it sucks because I'm like, well, you struggling with this, or you an alcoholic, or you got this or that, and but I'm just really targeted, and so. But I feel very encouraged, today. I really do appreciate you just taking time, and I know for people that are listening or watching, it's not like this episode is about rocket science. I just think what I wanted to do was just identify a first step, for people that are like me and that are doing this journey, so that they can follow me and do this together. But what I want to do in closing, because I want to, stay in touch with you and hopefully, show you my report or my progress from Nashville. But matter of fact, love to bring you to Nashville if you're ever interested.
I'm interested, 100%.
Okay, y'all hear that? We go. Come on, Nashville.
Yeah, come to Tennessee.
Let's do this. Let's bring Drew to Nashville. And what's one area that for you, because this podcast is all about showing up. Yeah. And I'd like the song in the chorus I just wrote. All I got to do is show up. Be brave enough to try again this time. And I think for me, if I can just get to the gym, I may sit there in the car, but after a while, if I keep sitting in the car, it'll make me say, you know what, let me go on in and walk. Yeah. And then let me keep showing up, And so I ask every guest, what's one area that you could share that you want to show up in your life?
That's a great question. For me personally, if you're asking me personally, it's me as a dad. Like that's what I was put here on earth to do. Like I'm a divorced guy. I was married for 10 years and that didn't work out, and I put I lived through a lot of guilt and shame initially when I went through a divorce. And that was really hard for me because I initially thought people would see me as a failure, right? But I know now that the way people see me has nothing to do with me. It's all a reflection of how they see themselves. So for me, it doesn't bother me if someone's rude to me or mean to me or judges me because you know what? It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. And in a way, I kind of feel sorry for other people that still live in that place of judgment towards other people because they're the ones that are suffering, not me. I'm in a good place emotionally and spiritually. Like I know I am where God wants me to be. And for me to be a dad to 2 beautiful daughters, that right there is my role. And that's my purpose on this earth. And so I'm just doing the best I can with what I have. And so that's how I try and show up every day. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about making progress and moving forward. So a lot of people don't know this, but I'm part Hawaiian. And in the Hawaiian culture, there's a word called imua, I-M-U-A, and it means moving forward. And it has a lot of meaning to me. And that's what life is all about, is constantly moving forward. And that's kind of how I try and show up. Does that make sense?
Totally. And lastly, what's the future look like for you? What's next? I mean, we follow you on social media. We see you eating healthy. I mean, you live the life you talk about. But what's the future look like for you?
That's a great question. Right now I have a lot of stuff. I got season 2 of the TV show coming out in January 2018, which will be on Lifetime. So be on the lookout for that.
And guys, if you're asking and looking, I missed the deadline. Go ahead.
But hey, season 3. Season 3.
All right, but I might have to lose it before that time.
No, you're good. Man. So I have the TV show. I have a podcast, which is a weekly episode. So I plan on continuing to do that. I have some programs coming out. I have a lot of online programs that people can subscribe to and purchase, and that's just my business side.
Do you travel a lot and speak?
I do travel and I speak a lot. So if anyone wants me to come out to like Nashville, for example, I would love to come speak.
It's booked, guys.
And then behind the scenes, I am working on a couple books, which is going to be a long process. So don't expect it to come out anytime soon. One is a diet, fitness, keto book is what I'm working on. But then also one is kind of a little bit more personal, and in hopes to help other people that struggled like I used to struggle.
So you see yourself evolving beyond the training? Because I don't know. We haven't talked about this. I don't know you, but I just sense there's more to you than training.
There's more to me than that.
There's more to you. You seem like a person that cares about people, and you want to use your life stories to help further people along.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, being looking good, like having a six-pack is cool. But I don't want to be remembered for that.
Yeah, totally.
There's so much more to me than my body. There's so much more to you than your body.
That's right.
There's so much more than all of us than what our physical body looks like. And so I'm trying to get people to realize that we don't need to place so much value on just on our physical appearance. We have more to offer this world. And so, I'm trying to get that part out there and helping people realize there's more. I have more to give. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Well, I appreciate you being on this podcast, man. And for those that are watching, make sure you follow Drew at Fit to Fat to Fit.
Yes, sir.
On all the social media platforms. And guys, he really does post a lot daily through Insta stories about what he's eating, how he's eating. He's very informative. So a lot of the stuff, before I met him, I was introduced to it because he was talking about intermittent fasting. And I was like, well, what the heck is that? And here I am 30 days later, feeling good about myself and down 20, 25 pounds. Yep. And I just really appreciate what you do. And I appreciate you taking the time. You didn't have to let me come into your house and to have this episode, but man, I really do thank you. This means a lot. If I don't see you again, just know that I will see you again. But if I didn't, I just want you to know, man, how much you mean to the people like myself. And I hope that you will become the voice that really helps those that are struggling, all because of your choice of empathy. It's huge, man. It speaks volumes. So thank you for being on the show, and we'd love to have you back.
Thanks, Calvin. You're an inspiration, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Take care, everybody. See you later.
See ya.